One.
Good evening and welcome to the Templeton, Massachusetts Zoning Board of Appeals. This is Tuesday, September 17th, 2024, 6:30 p.m. We are at Town Hall, 160 Patriots Road, East Templeton, in the conference room. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'm going to go by the agenda this time and review the minutes from June 18th, 2024. I don't see any. Who's
Make a motion and do accept them.
I'll second it.
Well, I gotta make the most. I make
Oh, I
a
thought you
motion to accept the minutes on June 18th, 2024.
as read?
Second.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Okay, we'll take a roll call.
Yes.
Yes.
Me, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Number two, I think that's why everybody's here tonight, is a public hearing, which we're opening now, acting under the Templeton Zoning By Laws, section 329B enforcement for an appeal of the zoning enforcement officer's notice of noncompliance of an approved site plan and special permit dated July 19th, 2024, made by Ronald and Kathryn Lagrave of CarWorks, 288 State Road. And we will motion to open the meeting.
I'll make a motion, we open the meeting.
I'll second.
Yes.
Say we're
Yes.
all yeses, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Greg Roy with Dillis and Roy. I'm representing Ron Lagrave this evening. And as you read, we're here. The applicant filed an appeal relative to action that the building commissioner made at the site. And so we filed the appeal. I wanted to be clear on a couple points. The applicant filed the appeal really to come here and sit with your board and get in the same room. And I wanted to give a little bit of history of the project. Your board actually granted zoning relief. You granted a special permit for the extension of a pre-existing non-conforming use and also a small variance relative to the side yard setback. That was 2 years ago. I think it was in 2022. We also did, the applicant did receive site plan approval from the planning board for the proposed building and associated parking areas. And we received an order of conditions from the Conservation Commission relative to the same. All of that was back in the 2022 timeframe. Fast forward to this summer, the applicant had subsequently received a building permit for the work and had constructed the building and demolished the existing building. The building that was constructed in size and shape and location as was approved on the site plan. The reason we're here, at least our understanding of the reason we're here, is because the paved areas on the site were constructed larger than were shown on the approved plans.
And so when the applicant went to pave the property, a decision was made to pave more than was shown in the approved plans. And so I wanted to be clear on that point. We're not trying to, sidestep that fact. The applicant filed the appeal, really to get, before your board, to try and talk this through. Subsequently, the Conservation Commission has issued an enforcement order, relative to the compliance under that approval, which is a separate and distinct process to this, but relates, we understand. So we will be addressing that with their commission, regardless of what you folks determine this evening. But I guess we're hopeful that, relative to certificate of occupancy on the building that was constructed, again, understanding that we do need to go to the Conservation Commission. We need to work through some issues with them relative to what was paved, drainage and things like that. But we are hopeful that the issues of the building commissioner's action relative to the certificate of occupancy could be separated from that process that we know that we have to undertake with the Conservation Commission. We have looked at the site on a preliminary basis. The advantage, I guess, that we have in this case, the soil types that underlie that site are what are known as a Class D soil, which is a very densely packed soil that really doesn't provide for much infiltration. So a lot of the water that fell on that site, even pre-existing, before the work was even done, ran off the site, just because there's not a lot of infiltration capacity in that soil. So when we looked at the as-built conditions that we have today with most of the site being paved or impervious, there's not much of a difference, believe it or not, with how much water is running off the site. As if you compare it to the before construction 2 years ago. What we think we need to work through with the Conservation Commission is some of the other metrics relative to the Massachusetts stormwater management policy, which I know your board doesn't get into very often, but relative to treatment of the stormwater before it gets to the wetlands and things of that nature. But I wanted to let the board know that was the history. We wanted to sort of wear our heart on our sleeve there a little bit. We're not here trying to sugarcoat anything. But we are asking the board to, if you see fit, find favorably with the applicant relative to the appeal of the zoning issue, understanding that we do still have to go and work with the Conservation Commission as a separate and distinct process relative to the paving and the stormwater issues. And I'll stop there. Happy to take any questions to the extent that I can. I will note too, my office didn't file the appeal, so I'm here as a consultant to the applicant, but I'll certainly do that. And they are here this evening. Ron and his wife Katie are here too. Thank you for your time.
Well, when it comes to Conservation Commission, you're right, we don't cross paths, we kind of stay away from each other. In a situation like this, we got our paths crossed.
Right.
No doubt. Whether we can even do anything or not, it's gonna be a big question mark when we're done talking, I think. I'd like to hear the whole story. What led to the changes that were made to your plan. I think that's where your question should be aimed. Whether or not you knew where it was supposed to be or not, this plan was all that the town had to work on. They took this in fair face value and said, yeah, that's what it's gonna look like after. Our Conservation Commission obviously has to go hand in hand with the state, and if they don't get along, things don't go right and won't ever go right. I'm sure our Conservation Commission works with the state, and if they need a regulation set forth, they're supposed to follow, that's why they're doing it. It's not about what the ground is, it's not about how the flow is gonna go from here to there, it's the way the laws are written. We got brooks.
Yeah.
Rivers, you name it, in this zone, so it's hard to say anything if you're not the Conservation Commission. I mean, as far as setbacks and all the other variances that you'd look for that we've given to you happily. I'm happy with the way the place is. Driving by, the place looks great. Underlying the laws about the conservation. Those issues aren't for this board. I don't believe we've ever dealt with it.
We're just here for the
I don't-
asphalt. How big is a piece of asphalt are we talking about? And if you could come out and show us on the map up here,
Sure. Yeah, I can do that.
thank you. I know it's on the state road, but I wasn't sure which.
Yeah, this is the state road.
Essentially, we're intending to pave this portion of the site.
Right, that was fine.
Right. So this portion here there was an existing paved, that was to remain. Essentially, this portion here and some over in this area was paved. So we're talking about that front portion of the site.
That's quite a lot.
Who,
Was this page?
This is where the existing building was, if you can.
Right.
but this wasn't on the original plan to
That's
be
correct.
paved.
That's correct.
Who took it into their own terms to just say, hey, pave there, did the contractor do it? Or
I'll have to.
the gentleman's raising his hand back there.
I did it.
You had him do it, okay.
Yes. Under the assumption that I was doing the right thing at the time.
Now you using that for parking?
Yes.
I'd like to add one thing. I went and did a site plan, talked to the owners and stuff, and just to get a feel for what's going on there, because it looks so good, you know? It's like, might could be a problem. That's when I got my education on the conservation and where the tar was supposed to go and not go. And looking at it and thinking like, what's the ground underneath? Is it permeable? Will it drain in? It probably wouldn't, whether it was tar or gravel or whatever. Because there's gonna be so much in a small area, it's gonna flow somewhere. If you take and you go around almost, I'd say close to any building, you want a tar buffer around the foundation to keep water from coming back at the building. I would think. I don't know if conservation has a variance for issues like that, but that could be the only way I could see when I went there to look and say, well, you know, you could probably get away with 8 feet or something to keep the water from going back at the building away from the foundation
I
and.
had something. When we dug the hole for the foundation, we had 2-3 feet of water
Filled right up.
filled right up.
Sure.
We had to pump it out.
Oh,
You got wetlands behind you.
yeah.
Correct.
Water
So
table side.
for me, I mean, I'm a mechanic. I don't think there is a water issue for that wetland. There is actually a culvert to the, if you're looking at the building to the left of it, that runs into the street drain.
Mhm.
Because there's so much water.
Yeah.
So I really don't see an issue with what I've paved. I really 100% think that I didn't do anything wrong. Everything is running into the drain.
Mhm.
It's not going on state road, which I know
And there
state
is-
road is a whole nother plan.
Between State Road and where the tar is, it's still permeable
Right.
surface.
Correct.
And you're gonna put
Where
trees
we're
and
gonna
stuff
put the
there.
trees and the plants
So
and,
if anything runs off that tar, it's gonna get caught there.
yep, or into onto Karate Ave.
Yeah, I will note that, in our analysis, and again, that this, backspace. The metrics that the Conservation Commission, needs to review are relative to in this case, relative to the impervious pavement are really, stormwater related. And there's 10 standards of the Massachusetts Stormwater Management. And they relate to, I'm gonna bore you if I start saying what they are, but they relate to no increase in runoff, additional runoff, treatment. You have to treat the runoff to make sure it doesn't have any suspended solids in it and things like this. You have to have an operation and maintenance plan. There's a few of those metrics that we're going to have to document with the Conservation Commission. But I will note that when we looked at this, the way that it was graded, with all the paving, particularly the paving on the state road side, it doesn't run towards the wetlands. So most of the paving, even on the Karate Ave side and on the, and all of it on the state road side runs towards the green space, if you will, between the road, the edge of the road and the new pavement. So we sort of have that acting to our advantage as well. There is still some work that we need to do with the Conservation Commission. We're not denying that fact, but I'm just giving you, the results of our analysis. We do have that to our advantage. It's not like the entire site drains, and we didn't increase the amount of impervious area, paved and roof that is tributary to the wetland area really didn't increase, significantly, if at all, based on what was done in the field, as far as we can tell.
May I say something?
More?
When, you came in with this plan, this is not our plan, this is your plan.
That's correct.
And everybody in town, I think, was pretty accommodating and agreed to it, including us. We
That's
agreed to the plan in our privy, which is our jurisdiction, is really in zoning.
Mhm.
I mean, we don't have the right to supersede planning board, conservation, and it's really not our business, and it's not our education either to
Mhm.
do that. And basically, we're just zoning. If you were like 1 foot more than you were supposed to be on that plan, that'd be our problem. They don't have the right conservation plan and whatever to say, hey, you're within 15 feet of the boundary. We're not gonna let
Right.
you do it.
Understood.
That's up to us to give that one. They don't have the right to supersede us either.
We're getting off track a little bit here.
No, and I'm getting actually.
Well,
I don't think
what
this
I'm
has
saying
anything to
is,
do with us.
we have nothing to do with, we're here just for the pavement. That's all, we're not here for any of the conservation
But
stuff.
it's
They
not
gotta go
our
see them
business.
anyway, and I believe conservation's here
They are.
tonight. So, I think maybe the best thing we do right now is open it up, and, I know Rich is here and Mr. Hanks and have them.
I have a question.
give their
What
side.
does zoning have to do with any of the pavement?
Exactly. This is what this board is for.
Right, so this is a waste of everyone's time.
Well,
It's an appeal of the building commissioner's
decision.
decision.
Right, but it's based on conservation. Correct?
It's based on a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's.
All right, so we should be
Conservation being the big
within conservation board,
But
not,
we approved your plans, and we're not
Right.
denying your plans now.
right, I mean, they're a little different.
That's
Well,
why-
not
Well, that's why we're here,
That's
well,
why
they're
we're
not-
here.
and that's why we're here.
But
Well,
answer me this
one-
question. Do I need a permit to pave?
Actually, yeah, yes, I would imagine you do.
Okay, I
There's
paid-
the
I paid
gentleman
my
you
house
can ask
bill
right
for-
there.
from
I
conservation.
called the company, they came, they paved my house.
So what you do need is,
Templeton does.
was to have followed the approved plan.
All right, so in a
So-
year from now, if I followed it, came back and paved it,
Then
then there'd be no issue.
there would be, because you would be in violation of the approved plans. So you have an approved plan that everybody may
All
consider.
right, so my example from my house. It
Your,
was.
your house is not in the wetland. Your house did
The
not.
wet- the
your
wetland
house did not
laws
obtain
really-
Special permit.
All right, so let's continue then.
I'm in agreement with the board members that we are not a conservation commission, or do we step on their toes? It's just not right for us to do that. It's not our input. Are there any other issues with the zoning board that you want to address right now that?
I don't believe there are any, to my understanding, the issues, and anybody in the room can correct me if I'm speaking incorrectly, but my understanding is the issue that the building commissioner took exception with was the extent of the paving. And how that related to the approved plans with planning board, with conservation commission particularly. Your board really didn't, the approvals that you granted us were use, really doesn't have anything to do with the paving.
Right.
And the offset of the building to the property line, again, doesn't really have anything to do with the paving.
Right.
so we're really not here relative to the permits that you issued. We're here as a separate process, as an appeal to an action that the building commissioner issued. And I guess it was the applicant's intention to file that appeal so that we could come to the table here, talk it through. And we're hopeful that the board would be comfortable separating the action that the building commissioner made relative to my understanding, that was I'll use negative terms, a denial of on the building commissioner's part to sign the certificate of occupancy for the building. Again, relative to the metrics that we're talking about, I get it. There's some cross connections, but there's another process. My point is, and my argument to you is, there's another process, particularly with the Conservation Commission, that we have to go through relative to that issue. There's a whole other certificate of compliance process that we have to go through with them that, by the way, also runs with the deed. So enforcement orders and the inability of the applicant to obtain a certificate of compliance through the Wetlands Protection Act that the Conservation Commission filed is also still a stain on the deed and in the title of record. So it behooves the applicant to resolve that process. And we would have to, regardless of what you do this evening. If you were to overturn the decision, we'd have to go back to the Conservation Commission and resolve that as a separate process. If you were not to overturn it, we still have to go back to the board and overturn it. So that sort of doesn't change that process any.
My theory is you have to get approval from the conservation.
We do.
Before you do anything.
Put yourself in our building inspector's shoes. He
I
goes
don't-
over, he looks, he sees the tire. he's,
I
"Wait a
understand.
minute."
I understand.
I'm not gonna say he's wrong.
I understand.
can't.
I'm not saying
Look at these guys.
and I'm not, I understand the position you're in.
So
Should
that,
hear
you know,
from them.
and if you're done, we'll hear from
I am done. Yes,
the
thank you. I appreciate your time.
Conservation
Thank you.
Commission agent and see.
Mr. Hanks had his
Yes.
hand up.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So the purpose of this appeal tonight is whether or not the board believes that I either am correct, that you did not follow the plan, or I am correct. The board this board has no authority to alter that plan. You're here for an appeal whether or not my enforcement order is correct, that he didn't follow the site plan with the planning board, and that he didn't follow the Conservation Commission. Both those issues are tied to an occupancy permit, so I cannot issue an occupancy permit until he follows all approvals from all boards. All right, so that's what's at discussion right now, is whether or not he followed the site plan or not. We're not here, they're not here to determine whether or not he can pave any further area.
Correct.
He'd have to go back to the planning board. He'd have to get approval from conservation as well. So this is just a matter of an appeal, whether or not my determination is correct or incorrect. Correct?
That's the way the chair sees it.
I can't disagree with you.
Anybody else want to speak?
Everybody's happy. Any people
Is
from the audience?
conservation here? I didn't know if did anybody from conservation come? Did they want to speak?
I'm the vice chair. I have no comment. I think they summed it up well.
Well, I do have another question to Mr. Hanks. Couple of things. Could we do it in an opposite way, put this meeting on hold? And have them go before the conservation first? And then whatever the conservation says, they say it has to come out, it's gonna have to come out anyways. Can we wait and then come back here? Would that be a problem?
What would we come back for? Wouldn't be a decision.
Well, if the conservation didn't pass it
Well,
It's conservation and planning, because
Yeah.
and
all,
plan.
all the approvals were hinged on that site plan right there. It wasn't just conservation.
So what we're hearing is you want us to go to the boards, the conservation planning first, and that's fine, that's fair. It may be the case, I don't see Mr. Hanks may disagree with me, and that's fine, but I don't see a disadvantage to continuing this matter. it may be the case that we resolve those issues with, we determine the course of action that needs to take place, come to an agreement with those boards, and then we wouldn't need the appeal, because if we come to a resolution to the satisfaction of the building commissioner, that then we would need to appeal it, because then the building commissioner would be able to act. But I don't see any harm, unless you folks see it differently, in continuing the matter. If you're willing to do that.
I don't even think it's anything to do with it at all.
Well, it does because of the site plan.
Well, the
It
site
wasn't
plan,
laid out the way it
yes,
was, and that's what we're on.
Yes, yes.
Well, I mean, the other,
Don't have anything to do with conservation.
I mean,
No.
candidly, it does have things to do with you, because the applicant appealed and you're the appellate board. So
I understand that.
candidly, your other alternative would be to deny the appeal. So you can grant the appeal, you can deny the appeal, or you could continue it, and we could come back in a month. So I guess if you don't have any objection, we would appreciate continuing it versus you denying it this evening. And it might be the case that we end up withdrawing it if we are able to resolve the matters with the various boards beforehand, to the satisfaction of the building, to get the building commissioner satisfied with being able to sign off.
Absolutely.
Mr. Chair, ZBA, my name is Jessica Case. I'm the Templeton Conservation Agent. My apologies for my voice.
Okay.
I'm here because I witnessed the site in person, and I urge you to support and uphold the building commissioner's determination that the plans weren't followed. The pavement was further than the plans depicted. And I urge you to drive by and see what room would be left for trees and snow storage and pervious surface area. Furthermore, here to just provide information regarding conservation, since you did pose a continuance. Mr. Lagrave did receive an enforcement order from the Conservation Commission, which has been sent to Mass DEP. It is a permanent encumbrance on his property. Essentially, what that means is he has two ways to resolve it with conservation. The first is to remove the pavement and follow the plans as depicted, and the local Conservation Commission can lift an enforcement order. Other than that, he would have to appeal with Worcester Superior Court that we are wrong in our determination that he didn't follow the plans. So it is just based off of, that's the process with conservation. So him coming to a meeting with conservation, not sure what the compromise is going forward when those are the two outs to the enforcement order.
Could I?
No, yeah, absolutely.
We could also file an amended albeit after the fact, but we could have filed for an amended, an
With the
amendment.
Conservation Commission.
Yeah, which would be the way that the mechanism, if there was a happy medium to be achieved between the approved plan and what was built, that would be the only process. They'd have to amend the order
So
conditions,
still you have planning board.
and then we'd have to do the same with planning, correct?
So Mr. Lagrave was granted all these concessions with zoning and planning and conservation and the building department, and we all support his small business in town. I think the concessions really came at the beginning. And the plans were set with 4 departments, and those are what everybody's following, especially because since your company did the stormwater management plan, and as you know, stormwater management is important for the recharge of the wetlands. Without that, we're having inundated wetlands, and we have his property inundated. That's why you did all of those calculations, to protect his property and to protect the neighborhood. And I understand what you're saying, but without that, we got water runoff everywhere. We don't want hydroplaning into State Road, and we don't want his property flooded, and we don't want the wetlands flooded, and all the things associated with that. So the Templeton Conservation Commission unanimously signed the enforcement order and certified it. You're absolutely within your right to do an appeal. But those are the 2 paths most clearly forward, would be to follow the plans.
And I understand all that, and I appreciate it. I want to say for the record, I'm here representing the applicant, so please don't yell at me.
Nobody's yelling yet.
But I do want to say that
I understand the stormwater issue. And I know that whatever happens at that site, whether it's take all the extra pavement out for the approval, I guess what I'm saying is, I believe that, there is more, that the site could sustain more pavement than what was shown in the approved plan. If we had proposed it in the
Well,
beginning,
wasn't
we
it
could,
proposed in
hold
the
on,
plan?
just, can I listen?
My fault.
Because we didn't, that wasn't the plan at the time, but if it had been the plan at the time, I believe we could have documented compliance with the regulation. So my point is, we may be going through a process with the Conservation Commission to document that. And we'll work on that directly with the Conservation Commission. I understand that's not your purview, but I understand that all those Ts and Is have to be dotted and crossed. And if there's no way forward on that, then we'll be back, and then our option is set. But we understand that we have some work. That's why that was in my initial remarks. We understand there's some work to be done there.
Kathryn, you had your hand up.
Kathryn Lagrave, Ron's wife, as well as Dana Prentice's daughter, who's been around that property since I was pretty much born. I just wanted to kind of reiterate a little bit what Greg is saying is by no means are we trying to like dismiss anything that you guys have already approved. The planning board has already approved. The Conservation Commission has approved. Yes, we overpaved. Apologies. In all honesty, it was done not realizing that, oh my goodness, this has to be permeable surface. Just something that he was not aware of. So that's what we did. So what we are trying to do, and we feel like we're trying to do the avenues the best that we can based off the information that we had, is we thought that we were told that this was our first step. So that's where we are. This is our first step. We are working with Greg to try to basically say how much of this pavement can we keep, if any of it, to make sure that Mass DEP is satisfied, that Concom is satisfied, that everybody's satisfied. Like, we're not trying to, hide behind curtains and do things foolishly that is going to hurt the state road, is going to, obviously we don't want our building to flood. We have a beautiful building over there. Dealt with flooding in the other building for very many years, sump pumps, wearing rain boots to go down to check it all the time. I don't want to deal with that. So we want to make sure that the property is nice. We also want to make sure it looks good. So like I said, I just wanted you guys to be aware that by no means are we trying to skirt behind anything or go over anything that you guys have. We understand that we're not to plan. So what we want to try to do is move forward with everybody to come up with a plan that meets everybody's approval. And that's what we'll do. So that's really what we're trying to do. And we were told that this is first stop. I kind of get it's not really your purview as far as zoning is concerned, but I think that's just because the first part came behind Mr. Hanks and his, not granting occupancy. And I just had one question in regards to if the board does, put this on hold and we move forward. What will that do to our current temporary occupancy permit? In regards to that, we have every intention to work with you, planning board, Jessica, Richard, anybody that we need to in order to make this meet everybody's standards. And I am available 24 hours a day by my cell phone and my email to communicate with anybody on this, and I'll do anything that I need to try to make this move forward as smoothly as possible. I don't want to, we don't want to dig our heels in the ground. We want to make this go as quick as possible. So we hope that we can also maybe keep that temporary occupancy as long as we're working hand in hand with you guys. Thank you.
You have any answers on her occupancy extension? I don't.
Well, I just want to clarify one point is that Ron was told by Jessica and I a couple of times that area that got paved was not supposed to be paved, so that he took it upon himself to extend that paved area. As far as the occupancy, you have a temporary, which has expired. It was good till sometime in August, so you are already have an expired temporary, and unless they agree with you tonight, there's nothing for you to extend.
Okay, because I had emailed about that temporary occupancy and asking in regards to us appealing, because I mean, we have no other recourse if that appeal, you know, if we were gonna continue with the temporary occupancy at that point. And I believe the answer to that was still stay here, temporary occupancy. We just, you know, nobody's gonna come in and talk to you about it.
That was actually me, Katie, I'm Lori.
Yeah.
And
Thank you, Lori.
we had talked about it previously as a stay until zoning board of appeals.
Which is gonna end tonight.
Unless continued.
Now the pressure's on. Well, I'm not gonna shut a business down over a piece of tar myself. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
This gotta be worked out one way or another. I just think we're at the wrong table right now to be doing it.
So I guess back to answer the question, that if you agree to extend this out, then they're still in the appeal period. And their temporary can still hold.
But for us to do that, we have to find you an heir?
No.
No?
You can do as he was saying, is that you table this for tonight.
Oh, continue, yeah.
Don't act.
Continue it for a certain timeline. Giving them the opportunity to go back to planning board and go back to conservation.
That extends.
Yeah, just don't make a motion either way,
No.
just.
Well,
Just to have you understand, the, he's 100% right. He's just doing his job. I mean, it's simple as that. I mean, he doesn't really have, I don't want to put anybody out of business. I'm a business person myself. I also have been on your end of it. And yeah, it gets real complicated, it gets real expensive, and it doesn't take much sometimes, and sometimes just takes somebody's opinion to screw you up and cost you a lot. This is not that, in my opinion. He's just following procedure.
Absolutely.
And-
Everybody is.
And-
Tom is, he is, you guys are at 100%. And that's why, as I said, we want to try to fix this.
Yep.
The pavement that is there is helping the business. If you notice when you went down there, anybody that has actually gone down there, if we don't even try to extend any of the pavement, it's gonna be hard to park cars. I do take some of that responsibility on myself, as I did not look at the plans as closely as I probably should have, knowing the lot and how things are sent out, as we probably would have extended that pavement to begin with.
the one thing that kind of caught my eye when I went over there was the house across the street had a whole yard full of grindings. Perfect. Why didn't you put them down there? That would have been legal, right? Is that permeable? Would it go through? If they grindings the whole place, is that legal?
Take it up and put gravel down.
I've
Pick
packed
the asphalt up, put gravel down.
And I've packed millings are still considered a.
Asphalt,
impervious
Asphalt,
surface.
yeah.
Oh, they are,
it is asphalt.
because I've read different, but
Yeah,
if
Well,
that's what the laws
yeah,
say.
yeah, I will say, when we model them from a stormwater standpoint, yeah, it's the same.
Even if it's stone or
When you
something.
first put them down, maybe not. but
Fine,
after-
stone.
Yeah, they pack down, yeah.
I mean, conservation has a right. There's a certain procedure, certain thing that you guys went through, spent a lot of money doing that engineering. And basically, from their point of view, they're being pretty disrespected by completely being ignored on it in the matter.
In all fairness, not.
Agree with them or not?
Being ignored.
Agree with them or not?
Um,
That's
We paved, correct, I understand that, so being. I don't know if disrespect, that's not the word, we paved and then. Realized why we couldn't pave, because in all honesty, on my front, I didn't realize the reasoning that we could not pave. That was all really kind of made apparent to me when I was doing my own little bit of research as to why you needed to have some impermeable surface there. So now that we fully understand that, like I said, we really want to work with Greg to come up with possibly some sort of compromise that meets all of those Mass DEP, stormwater management, all of the things that we have to meet, and possibly be able to keep some of that pavement. We do understand that we are gonna have to come up with some sort of a compromise with them, which will then go through, all of the different boards that be. But I do believe, and as Greg has stated, that he also still believes that we may be able to extend that pavement a little bit and still be able to come up with all the necessary check marks that we need.
I'm not one myself to want to, cause you harm. I'm sure you have a huge expense there and you're running the business and it'd be hard for you to afford that, but there is an option out you could do pretty quickly, and that is remove it, but in there, I'm not, I personally would give you time to do something quickly though, and act quickly and try to do what you can with conservation. That's who's the person that you really need to satisfy. Obviously, the conservation for that lot.
Absolutely. And
And plan, oh yeah, planning, I think planning,
You can show that.
planning of course has to approve it, but they'll probably go along with conservation, probably. Can't speak for them.
Absolutely. Yep.
If
Right.
you decide to continue, you're going to have to take the time into consideration that it's going to take. Conservation meets on a monthly basis.
Right.
Planning board meets every 2 weeks, so that's a little bit easier.
What about 2 months maybe?
I would recommend,
Yeah, I think if you're willing, that might
Months.
make sense because we probably would be, timing of getting before them and resolving it and getting it resolved.
We're really here just for the pavement, not for anything that, like I say, with the water.
No,
I mean, it's a site plan we're here
we're
for.
only here for the.
For the site plan, where
Here
they
for
paved,
building
where they paved in the wrong spot. We're not here about drainage or anything else. We're here for
Right.
the wrong spot, the planning, the plans that were given, that we approve for them. And they put it in the wrong spot, and I personally think
I guess we have the jurisdiction to,
it's about the, we can, I think we should vote on it tonight. I mean,
I think we
now that we've all got it all out and my own thing is maybe they could tear it up and put gravel down in there for parking. I mean, they paved in the wrong spot. They admitted it and.
Gravel's not impervious, so it's just packed.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. If it's gravel there,
we just give them an extension for them to go through the procedure. Enough time for them to do it, and then the next
If
time it
that's what
comes
you think
up,
the boy, yeah.
they've
well, then I'm
been
on board with
satisfied
that
right
too.
at that point.
We would appreciate that if you were willing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's best that's the best I feel like. we
that
can
gets
do.
it out of.
We
our
don't wanna hurt
purview
any
back where it's
business.
supposed to
Well,
be.
yeah, back was supposed to be.
Well, and that might be the case then in 2 months when we are back before you, we may be able to withdraw. If
Well,
we've
you'll have 2
satisfied.
months to figure it out.
Right.
You won't be shut down tomorrow.
Yeah, and we would appreciate that if you would, be willing.
Yeah, nobody wants to see the business shut down.
No, we're not.
And I-
2 months, you have to figure it out.
Yeah.
you'll need a motion.
I'll need a motion for a continuance for a couple of months, I'd say.
Aye.
Anybody
Okay,
want to
go
look at a calendar?
60 days?
Yeah.
I make a motion that we make a continuance on 280 State Road. Ronald and Donald, Kathryn Lagrave. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. For a continuance.
Right,
Aye.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Appreciate
all
it.
right, makes it easier.
Welcome.
Suggest you go to conservation first, where it's easier to go to planning, and planning will probably want to hear what conservation has to say.
Okay, I'm clear. Thank you.
No, we can.
Interesting.
Any new business?
I have no new business for you.
Well, that being said,
Somebody wants to make a motion to
I'll make a motion to end the meeting. Second?